Imagine being able to freeze time at the most crucial moments of this Civil War, to capture not just the facts, but the raw emotions of a nation torn apart. That's exactly what a brave group of artists did, risking their lives on the front lines to show us what words alone never could. Join us as we uncover the hidden stories behind the most powerful Civil War paintings ever created. Photography was in its infancy during the Civil War. It was cumbersome, slow, and couldn't capture color or movement. That's where artists enter. These weren't your typical painters. Many were right there on the front lines, dodging bullets, sketching furiously as history unfolded around them. They became the eyes of the nation, showing the public, both then and now, what war really looked like. But these artists weren't just recording events. They were interpreting them, infusing their work with emotion, symbolism, and sometimes their own biases. As we explore these paintings, we'll uncover not just what happened, but how people felt about what happened. Let's start with a bang, or rather, thousands of bangs. Our first stop is the Battle of Gettysburg by Thure de Thulstrup. It's July 1863. The air is thick with summer heat and the smoke of 1,000 gunshots. Two massive armies clash on the rolling hills of Pennsylvania. This wasn't just any battle. Gettysburg was the turning point of the entire war. Thulstrup's painting captures this pivotal moment on a massive scale. It's like looking at a giant, terrifying chessboard where every piece is a human life. What sets Thulstrup apart is his obsession with accuracy. This guy wasn't messing around. He interviewed veterans, pored over maps, and even visited the battlefield himself. Every uniform button, every weapon, every hill and tree, he wanted it all to be spot on. Look closely and you'll see the incredible detail. Union soldiers in their dark blue jackets, Confederates in gray and butternut brown. The glint of bayonets, the billowing flags, the wheels of artillery pieces cutting through the mud. But Thulstrup wasn't just painting a military diagram. He captures the chaos, the confusion, the sheer madness of battle. Your eye darts across the canvas, much like a soldier's gaze might have darted across the real battlefield, trying to make sense of the mayhem. It's a poignant reminder that for every moment of glory in war, there's a price paid in blood. Step back and you'll see how Thulstrup uses the landscape to tell the story. The painting is divided roughly in 2/3, the Union forces, the contested middle ground, and the Confederate position. It's a visual representation of a nation divided, fighting over every inch of ground. Now, let's zoom in from Thulstrup's sweeping battlefield to a much more intimate scene. Winslow Homer's Prisoners from the Front shows us that sometimes the most powerful stories of war happen in the quiet moments between the fighting. A Union officer stands face to face with 3 Confederate prisoners. The battle is over, the guns have fallen silent, but the tension is palpable. Homer, who spent time as a war correspondent, knew that conflict wasn't just about grand charges and heroic last stands. It was also about these charged encounters between enemies who, just hours ago, were trying to kill each other. What's fascinating about this painting is how Homer portrays the prisoners. He doesn't paint them as evil or less human. Instead, he shows them as individuals, each reacting differently to their capture. Look closely. One prisoner stands defiant, chin raised, still unbowed in defeat. Another seems resigned, his posture slumped, the fight gone out of him. The third, younger than the others, looks almost curious about his captor. It's a masterclass in portraying complex emotions with just a few brushstrokes. The real power of this painting lies in what's not said. What's going through the minds of these men? Can they see each other's humanity, even in this moment of defeat? Homer leaves these questions unanswered, inviting us to ponder them ourselves. Don't overlook the background. The landscape is bleak and scarred, mirroring the emotional state of the prisoners. It's a subtle reminder that war doesn't just affect people, it changes the very land they fight on. As we move on, keep this image in mind. It reminds us that behind every grand battle, every sweeping campaign, there are individual human stories. Stories of defeat, of mercy, of shared humanity in the midst of conflict. From the heat of battle and the tension of capture, we now turn to the aftermath of war. Our next stop is George Barnard's haunting depiction of Sherman's march to the sea. Barnard was actually a photographer, not a painter, but his photographs were later turned into paintings, giving us a unique blend of photographic realism and artistic interpretation. Sherman's march was one of the most controversial campaigns of the war. Union General William Sherman cut a swath of destruction through Georgia, aiming to break the Confederacy's will to fight. Barnard's images show us the result. The painting presents a landscape of ruin, burned out buildings, their chimneys standing like tombstones, twisted railroad tracks bent into useless sculptures, felled trees and scorched earth, a once fertile land laid waste. There are no battles here, no heroic soldiers, just the quiet, terrible aftermath of war's devastation. Barnard's work challenges our ideas about war photography and painting. Is it an objective record, a work of art, propaganda? In many ways, it's all three. It documents real events, but the choice of what to show and what to leave out shapes how we see those events. It's also worth noting what, or who, is often missing from these paintings. African Americans, whose freedom was at the heart of the conflict, are rarely depicted. When they do appear, it's often in stereotypical or marginal roles. This erasure reflects the racial attitudes of the time, but it also shows how art can shape our understanding of history by what it chooses not to show. As we view these paintings, we should always ask ourselves, whose stories aren't being told? As we wrap up our journey through the canvas of conflict, you might be wondering, why should we care about these old paintings today? First, these artworks are windows into a pivotal moment in American history. They show us not just what happened, but how people at the time understood and processed these events. These paintings remind us of the very real human cost of war. It's easy to get lost in dates and battle statistics. But when we look at Homer's prisoners or Barnard's ruined landscapes, we're confronted with the personal toll of conflict. It makes history immediate and relatable. Civil War art challenges us to think critically about how history is portrayed. Who gets to tell the story? What perspectives are left out? How do artistic choices shape our understanding of events? By asking these questions, we become more discerning consumers of all media, not just historical paintings. Finally, let's not forget that these are simply powerful works of art. They move us, provoke us, and make us see familiar stories in new ways. Whether you're a history buff or an art lover, there's something in Civil War paintings that can speak to you. What Civil War painting has left the deepest impression on you? Or perhaps you have a favorite we didn't cover today. Share your thoughts, your interpretations, or even your own experiences with Civil War art. And hey, if you enjoyed this artistic adventure through history, why not sign up for more? Hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss another episode. If you really want to stay in the loop, don't forget to ring that notification bell.